While Stanley Kubrick's 1987 film Full Metal Jacket presents a narrow perspective of the events of the Vietnam War, it is an accurate depiction of a US soldier's experiences in both training camps and the Tet Offensive, thereby affirming its validity as a historical source. Kubrick's interpretation intended to depict the experience of the Vietnam War through the lens of the US Marines. Full Metal Jacket can be successfully utilized as a historical source in reference to the mental experience of soldiers both while in training and on the battlefield, successfully portraying the extensive mental torment that soldiers were subject to. Although, the film does omit significant factors such as the true scale of the war, including US casualties, the extent to which the Vietnamese citizens were displaced, and the systematic nature of United States war crimes. Full Metal Jacket is an accurate depiction of the experience of the US Marines both in training and on the battlefield, but it omits key aspects of the war such as the number of casualties and the effect of the war on civilians. Kubrick's training camp in Full Metal Jacket has been cited as being one of the most accurate depictions of US Marine training ever portrayed on film and can unquestionably be utilized by historians as a valid historical source. This is largely due to Kubrick's utilization of primary sources while researching for the film, such as Gustav Harsford, Michael Herr, and R. Lee Ermey. Ermey not only worked as a military advisor, but also played the role of drill sergeant and is credited with writing 50% of his own dialogue. Lee came up with, 150 pages of insults, off-the-wall stuff. I don't like the name Lawrence. Lawrence is for and sailors. This adds to the reliability of the film, as the majority of the degrading insults thrown at soldiers were recycled from Hartman's personal experience. However, the true extent of the abuse may have been subjugated by the need to make the film appropriate for cinema. The opening portion of the film displays the experiences of soldiers while in boot camp and highlights the dehumanizing factors such as only using nicknames, head shaving, and severe hazing, similar to the experiences of D.T. Nigers and former United States Marine James Laporta. Laporta described the training camp as completely accurate and no different from when I went through boot camp in 2006. Due to his extensive use of military advisors, Kubrick created an accurate depiction of the United States Marine boot camp on Parris Island that can be successfully utilized by historians as a valid source. While Stanley Kubrick managed to create an extremely accurate representation of a conflict at the city of Hue and the Tet Offensive, emphasizing the lesser-known characteristics of the Vietnam War, such as urban warfare and the isolation of US soldiers, Kubrick depicts only a small fraction of the offensive and omits the full extent of the damage inflicted by both sides. While Stanley Kubrick's set design does accurately portray the 40% of all buildings that were destroyed in the city of Hue, the film fails to depict the 116,000 inhabitants that were left homeless. Furthermore, Kubrick presents fighting between only one unit of US soldiers and a small number of Vietnamese fighters. At the time, an estimated 6,000 Viet Cong soldiers were killed, and over 600 US and South Vietnamese were killed, with 3,000 more wounded. Stanley Kubrick effectively utilizes set design and extensive detail to depict an accurate portrayal of the environment in Hue, but the film's usefulness to historians is limited by the lack of representation of the Vietnamese citizens. Although Full Metal Jacket does not adhere to stereotypical film structures of over-dramatization and oversimplification, it does cater to a specific American audience and thus highlights a particular perspective that diminishes the validity of the film. Movies will always be limited by the fact that they need to make a profit. Full Metal Jacket declines to indulge the viewer with a typical character development and two-dimensional good vs bad structure that is often expressed in cinema. This significantly improves the reliability of the film by removing the inevitable bias that comes with portraying groups as good and bad. Nevertheless, the film was made for an American audience. Due to this, Kubrick is limited to portraying US war crimes as rare instances committed by similarly mentally unwell individuals, rather than portraying the true systematic nature of the war crimes committed by the United States, including the destruction of populated villages and the use of chemical weapons. Despite the efforts of Stanley Kubrick to portray the Vietnam War as it was, the film is still limited by the bonds of cinema and the need for the film to turn a profit. Full Metal Jacket delivers an accurate, although somewhat narrow perspective of the Vietnam War that can be successfully utilized by historians as a historical source. Whilst the film omits the true size and destruction of the Vietnam War, with little perspective of the displacement of civilians in the conflict, Key aspects such as the set design, training camp, and the actions of US soldiers are all very accurate. Full Metal Jacket provides historians with a historical source on the Vietnam War that is extremely accurate, but due to the lack of perspective from the Vietnamese civilians, must be supported by other sources in regards to the conflict in Vietnam.